Sharpening the Controlling Faculties by Saddhammaramsi Meditation Center, Sayadaw. On this day, the 10th day of April 1992, the opening day of the 10-day retreat at Saddhammaramsi Sayadaw, I would like to open this retreat with an inaugural gatha of blessings for the protection and freedom from dangers for the yogis. Bhavantu sabba mangalam rakantu sabba devata sabba buddhanu bhavena sada sukhi bhavantu de. Bhavantu sabba mangalam rakantu sabba devata sabba dhammanu bhavena sada sukhi bhavantu de. Bhavantu sabba mangalam rakantu sabba devata sabba sanganu bhavena sada sukhi bhavantu de. Te tu ma come. May those of the noble Dhamma audience assembled in unison here, sabba mangalam, sabba mangalani, all the blessings of both the Lokya, or mundane, and Lokutra, supramundane, bhavantu, bhavantu, surely be upon you. Te tu ma come. May those of the noble Dhamma audience assembled in unison here, sabba devata, all noble and good celestial beings, rakantu, rakantu, guard and protect you always. Sabba Buddha nu bhavena, by the power and metta of all the Buddhas who have arisen and who number more than the sands in the river Ganges. Te tu ma come. May those of the noble Dhamma audience assembled in unison here, sada, on all occasions, sukhi, be free from danger, have peace and happiness in both mind and body, bhavantu, surely so. Sabba dhammanu bhavena, by the power of all the noble 10 Dhamma of the 4 Magga, 4 Phala, Nibbana, and the noble Dhamma. Te tu ma come. May those of the noble Dhamma audience assembled in unison here, sada, on all occasions, sukhi, be free from danger, have peace and happiness in both mind and body, bhavantu, surely be so. Sabba sanganu bhavena, by the power and metta of all the Sangha, the 8 Arya, or noble ones, who have realized one of the stages of the 4 Magga and the 4 Phala, together with the noble Samyuti Sangha, or conventional Sangha, te tu ma come, may those of the noble Dhamma audience assembled in unison here, sada, on all occasions, sukhi, be free from danger, have peace and happiness in both mind and body, bhavantu, surely be so. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The discourse today is on the benefits to be gained from the practice of vipassana, the difficulty of getting an opportunity to practice vipassana, and the first of the 9 causes for the sharpening of the controlling faculties, or the Indriya. The benefits to be gained from the practice of vipassana are not so evident at the early stages of the practice. The benefits become evident towards the middle and later part of the practice. The benefit that becomes evident after samadhi, or concentration, and jnana, insight, have become reasonably established are a calm and clear mind, a firm and strong mind, curing of diseases, sharpening of the intellect, and the ultimate benefit of the realization of the noble Dhamma, starting from the closing of the doors to the four woeful states, apaya, that one has been wishing and aspiring for. Practicing vipassana makes one's mind calm and clear. What is the cause for the mind not being clear? It is because of our desires and wants, better known as greed or lobha, hatred and anger, dosa, not knowing, not having the correct vision, moha. All these cause the mind to be unsettled and clouded. When one practices vipassana, with each moment of observing and noting, one is free from lobha, from moment to moment. There just cannot arise any desire or want while practicing vipassana seriously. Thus one is free from lobha. While practicing vipassana, one is also free from dosa. One is free from dosa from moment to moment. There is no such thing as having dosa while practicing vipassana. While practicing vipassana, one is also free from moha. While practicing vipassana, there is no such thing as having delusion, moha. Thus, if one wishes to have a clear mind, a peaceful and happy mind, free from lobha momentarily, free from dosa and free from moha, one must practice vipassana. At the early stage of practicing vipassana, the clear and peaceful mind is not so evident. At the later stage, the clearness and peacefulness of mind becomes really evident. The mind also becomes firm and strong. What is the cause of the mind not being firm and strong? It is because of lobha, greed. Those who are full of greed will find themselves unable to resist whenever they encounter sights and sense objects that are very enticing. They crave for these sense objects, and their mind becomes swayed with craving for these sense objects. They lose control of themselves. Their mind becomes unstable with the craving and clinging. They become unstable in bodily behavior too. The instability in their bodily behavior becomes obvious. Those who are full of anger are not able to restrain themselves when they encounter sense objects not to their liking. They lose control of themselves. Their minds become unstable with anger. Their minds become swayed and weak. When encountering enticing sense objects, there arises immense craving for those objects. When one encounters sense objects that are not to one's liking, one's mind becomes overwhelmed by anger. In this way, the mind becomes swayed. The mind is not firm. Thus, to have a strong and firm mind, one has to practice vipassana. When one comes to practice vipassana, with each observing and noting, one is free from lobha. That is the cause for the swaying or wavering of the mind. With each observing and noting, one is freed from dosa. That is the cause for the swaying or wavering of the mind. In this way, when one encounters sense objects that are enticing or that arouse anger, the mind does not get disturbed anymore. The swaying and wavering has all disappeared. Although one encounters sense objects that can arouse anger, the mind stays firm. For one who has anger as one's temperament, one's anger will be aroused when one encounters the 5 sense objects not to one's liking, the mind does not stay firm. One is actually developing and accumulating unwholesome merits, akusala, in this way. If one wants one's mind to be firm, one has to practice vipassana. Illness may also be cured. The curing of minor illnesses becomes evident when one reaches the stage of insight of udayaya jnana. The Dhamma audience and yogis here know of this for themselves to some extent. Those yogis who can observe and note well would often not like to take any medicine for such minor illnesses. They say it takes longer to get the effect. It goes away faster with observing and noting. For minor ailments such as headaches, neck aches, stomach cramps, yogis can observe and note well as yogis who have reached the udayaya jnana. They do not need to go for any medication. The pain goes away with just observing and noting. Those who are inflicted with minor ailments such as headaches, muscle pains, and so on, mostly find that the ailments disappear after they have reached the stage of udayaya jnana. Thus, one who has the benefit of cure from ailments. Even major illnesses or chronic diseases that could not be cured by the specialists or the most potent medicine get cured for those yogis who could practice to reach the stage of insight of sankhara upekkha jnana. It is evident that these illnesses get cured if they have not reached the terminal stage. If one has the patience and perseverance to practice to reach the stage of sankhara upekkha jnana, one's ailments are usually cured. A yogi who finds the ailment that could not be cured by the most well-known specialist or the most potent medicine can get cured while practicing vipassana. They will usually develop full and complete saddha or faith and confidence in the Dhamma. The yogi who now has unshakable faith and confidence in the Dhamma thus will be good for the sasana too. The benefit of having illnesses cured also becomes evident. However, the cure could not be obtained with mediocre effort. Those who are suffering from major illnesses had to put in great patience and perseverance in the practice. They have to strive hard to reach the level of insight of sankhara upekkha jnana. If one could persevere in this way, most will get cured. One's intellect also becomes sharp. It is especially evident for those practicing yogis who have reached a reasonably high stage of insight. Normally, when one is not able to comprehend profound literatures such as Buddhist scriptures and the like, when they have reached a high stage of jnana, such as sankhara upekkha jnana, one finds that one is able to comprehend and appreciate fully the same Buddhist literature that one had not been able to comprehend before. Now one finds one is able to comprehend the whole scripture right to the end and appreciate it fully too. Those who have been attending school and have practiced vipassana in their spare time and have reached a high level of insight have also found that they have improved tremendously in their academic achievements. They would now pass their examinations with flying colors. That is why today we find many schoolboys and girls coming to practice Vipassana in their spare time. It is very beneficial for them. Whatever one's intention to practice, if one practices, wouldn't one be bound to get the benefits? However, these are just mediocre benefits, as mentioned. The real and substantial benefit is obtained when one has practiced to full and complete maturity and realized the Sotapaddi Magga. That is, when the real and substantive benefit becomes evident. For one who has realized the Sotapaddi Magga, all the misdeeds that one has done during the innumerable rounds of rebirths, anamataga samsara, those that would have been dragged to the lower realms or to the four oval states, are cut off entirely. The Sotapaddi Magga has eradicated all of them. If one has done some misdeeds earlier during this life, because of not knowing or just folly, that would have dragged one to the apaya, the four woeful states, they are also cut off. The Sotapaddi Magga has eradicated all of them. These misdeeds would not ever be able to take effect in the future rounds of rebirths to drag one down to apaya. Thus one is able to make the rounds of rebirth with no fear or worry. One who has practiced to full and complete maturity, one who has realized the Sotapaddi Magga, has no doubts in one's mind about whether one will ever get to hell after this life. One is fully confident that one will not go to hell. One has no doubts in one's mind about whether one will ever become an animal after this life. One is fully confident that one will not get such a rebirth. One will have no doubts in one's mind as to whether one will become a peta, a hungry ghost, a devil, and so on after this life. One is fully confident that one will not go for such a rebirth. One has no doubt in one's mind about whether one will go to the life of an asura, an ugly demon, with a long and terrible life after this life. One is fully confident that one will not go to such a rebirth. One is able to make the rounds of rebirth with no fear or worry. The Sotapaddi Magga has eradicated all the coarse lobha and dosa and moha that would send one to the apaya. The coarse lobha that can cause to kill beings, the coarse dosa that can cause to kill beings, the coarse delusion of not knowing or the folly or the moha that can cause to kill beings, all of these are eradicated by Sotapaddi Magga. As all the coarse lobha, dosa and moha that would cause to kill beings, cause to transgress the 5 precepts, the rules of training, are all eradicated. It means one observes and safeguards the 5 precepts fully and completely. Of course, the Dhamma audience here and the Kalyana Puttajana, the good worldling or the ordinary person, usually observes the 5 precepts too. But the way a Sotapanna and a Puttajana observe is not the same. A Puttajana has to take special and great care to observe the precepts. When occasion arises to kill a life, one has to reflect on so many aspects, such as, it is not good to do so at one's age, or not good considering the good heritage one comes from, or that one has led a pure life with sila since young, and so on. One has to really ponder and reflect in this way when one is faced with an occasion to take life. When the occasion arises to take another's property, one has to make similar reflections, that it is not good to do so at one's age, or it is not good considering the good heritage one comes from, and so on. One's sila can be safeguarded only by making such reflections. Also, one has to make reflections so as to arouse one's sense of hiri, moral shame, and otapa, moral dread. When opportunity arises to indulge in sexual misconduct, one has to make the same kind of reflections, that it is not good to do so at one's age, or not good considering the good heritage one comes from, and so on. One has to consider in this way, so that one's sense of hiri, moral shame, and otapa, moral dread, are aroused. Only then will one's precepts be safeguarded and be intact. When opportunity arises to indulge in false speech, one has to make the same kind of reflections to observe and safeguard the precepts. When opportunity arises to transgress the precepts of surameraya, taking intoxicants which reduce mindfulness, one has to make similar reflections to observe and safeguard the precepts. In this way, the observance and safeguarding of the precepts by the Puttajana has to be done in a special and contemplative manner. When a person has become a sotapanna, it is not like that. The desire to kill, take others' property, indulge in sexual misconduct, false speech, and indulge in drinks and drugs which reduce mindfulness is just not there anymore. Thus, refraining from transgressing such acts come naturally to them. Thus, the observance of the precepts become fully intact. This benefit is very clear and evident. Going through the rounds of rebirths, a sotapanna will go only to higher and higher lives than this present life. Better attitude, abundance and wealth, better heritage, better looks, and so on than this present life. Of course, a Puttajana usually also works hard to make one's life better and more noble. Everybody usually tries to work hard to make their life better than their present life. They work hard to make their life more noble. Some are so eager to make their life better that they do so even at the cost of their very life. For one who has reached the stage of sotapanna, by practicing satipatthana vipassana, one does not have to put special effort to make one's life better. One is carried to a higher and better life as it is by the Dhamma. One is carried to a better and more noble life in all aspects, better attitude, heritage, wealth, and looks. An Arya, a noble person, will never go to a life which is lower in any respect than this present life. An Arya is destined to reach a better and better and more noble life from now on. This is the benefit of practicing vipassana. Because of the enjoyments of a better and better life in the process of existence, in the rounds of rebirths, bhava, samsara, if one forgets to practice the Dhamma, one can only forget for 7 lives at the most. At the 7th life, one has a special sense of religious urgency, samvega, and feels remorseful. Picking up the practice again and striving on, one would realize the stage of arahata magga and become an arahant, where all the kilesa, the unwholesome qualities, and asava, corruptive desires, are eliminated and dried up, and one attains nibbana. This is the ultimate benefit to be derived from practicing vipassana. When we say that the Sotapanna would be enjoying the bliss of better lives in one's process of existence, in the rounds of rebirth, bhava, samsara, it is not so much in the lokya, kamaguna, that is in the mundane world of the 5 sense objects, like desirable sights, pleasant sounds, pleasant smells, pleasant tastes, and pleasant touch, or in houses and vehicles, a happy family life, all the 5 sense objects. One would rarely be enjoying them. With what would they be enjoying? They would be enjoying mostly dana, that is, giving of alms or generosity. Enjoying one's life with giving alms, making money, doing acts of dana. Enjoying one's life with sila, morality, observing sila and observing special sila, such as uposatha sila, the 8 precepts, and so on. Enjoying one's life with samatha, that is tranquility meditation. In the days when the practice of samatha was the prevalent practice, one would enjoy passing one's time in samatha jhana. Thus they would enjoy themselves, doing acts of dana, observing sila, practicing samatha, doing vayavicca, giving service at the meditation centers, monasteries, and shrines. Sotapanna can forget for only 7 lives. In their 7th life, they will have a special sense of religious urgency or samvega and feel remorse. Picking up the practice again and striving on, they would realize the stage of arahata magga and become an arahant, where all the kilesa, the unwholesome qualities, and asava, corruptive desires, are all eliminated and dried up, and attain nibbana. This is the benefit of practicing vipassana, the ultimate benefit. In one's 7th life, one will have a special sense of religious urgency, samvega, and feel remorseful. Picking up the practice again and striving on, the Sotapanna would realize the stage of arahata magga and become an arahant and attain nibbana. This is the ultimate benefit of practicing vipassana. One is also sure to obtain the 7 benefits of practicing satipatthana vipassana, as expounded by the Buddha. Wouldn't the Dhamma audience obtain this ultimate benefit that they have been wishing for by practicing vipassana? Yes, they would. They would be able to obtain that by practicing vipassana, and this is the benefit of the practicing of vipassana. I will now continue to explain the difficulty to obtain the opportunity to practice vipassana. Only when one is born a human being like now are you able to practice satipatthana vipassana. When one is reborn in hell, or as an animal, or as a peta, a hungry ghost, or as an asurya, a demon, that is in the 4 apaya, or 4 woeful states, will one not have the opportunity to practice. One will not have the strength. One will also not have the desire to practice. The existences themselves are undesirable existence by any means. Beings are being overwhelmed by dukkha, suffering. Apaya beings are being overwhelmed by anitta aramana, unpleasant objects or sights. They do not have the strength to practice. All their strength has dried up. The name of these states is apaya, consisting of two words, apa-aya. Aya means kusala, or wholesome acts. Apa means void of. It means one does not have a chance to perform kusala, wholesome acts. Therefore one does not have a chance to practice. Chattaro apaya sakha geha sadisa. Chattaro apaya, the four apaya existences, sakha geha sadisa, are like the permanent abodes of Puttajana. That is, the four apaya existences are like the permanent abodes of a Puttajana, a worldling. Meaning most of the life of a Puttajana is in apaya states. Thus when Puttajana is in these states of apaya, they do not have any chance at all to practice. Being in the celestial world or in the human world is just like a guest or a temporary period of residency. One has a chance only to practice when one is in the human world. When in the celestial world, one does not have a chance to practice also. One cannot practice. Why is this so? Because it is overwhelmed with ittha aramana, pleasant objects or sights, pleasurable objects, and sukha, bliss. In the celestial world, many of you have heard about, one does not have to be in a mother's womb and suffer for about 9 or 10 months. It is a upapati bhava, that is a rebirth process where the celestial being is spontaneously reborn in one's abode, something like being dropped from the sky. A female celestial being would be reborn about 16 years of age, fully complete with female celestial regalia, and a male celestial being would be reborn spontaneously with about 20 years of age, fully complete with male celestial regalia. Thus, devas, or celestial beings, would just arrive at their abodes pleasantly, without undergoing any suffering. In their lives, they do not have extreme climates of hot and cold like in the human world. They do not have to suffer from extremes of climate. The climate is just temperate all the time. For food and nutrition, they have to just incline their minds and it will be there. The same for their clothing. They just have to incline their mind and it would be there. If they want to go anywhere, celestial beings just have to incline their mind and they would be there. If they want to see or hear anything, they have to just incline their minds, and by the power of Dibba Chakku, divine eye, celestial beings see sights from near and far. By the power of Dibba Sota, the divine ear, divine beings can hear near and far. It is very full and a complete life. Celestial beings do not have any anitta aramana, unpleasant sights. Celestial beings do not see any old or sick persons. They do not see old celestial beings. There are no celestial beings who are old and bent with grey hair and hard of hearing, going about with a walking stick. There is no such thing as having to be hospitalized because of sickness. There is no burial of the corpse of a celestial being. When they die, it is just like a light or a little flame being suddenly put out and disappearing. With such a life overwhelmed by ittha aramana, pleasant objects, and no anittha aramana, unpleasant objects, such as seeing the old, sick, or dying, there is no chance for any feeling of remorse or spiritual urgency, samvega jnana, to arise. Celestial beings' time is spent enjoying the happy life. But what are they being overwhelmed by? They are overwhelmed by ittha aramana, pleasant objects. They have forgotten everything else because of their happy and blissful life. They are too happy enjoying themselves. The human world. When one is able to practice, then, it is in the human world. One is able to practice only when one is in the human world, like the Dhamma audience here. Even then, one is not able to practice every time one is reborn in the human world. It is very rare that one is able to practice. There are many more rebirths where one is not able to practice. The Dhamma audience is able to practice now only because we are in the human world, a human being, we are still alive, in reasonable health, and there is a prevalence and flourishing of the noble Dhamma and the Satipatthana Vipassana, and one is also meeting with the Buddha Sasana, the dispensation or the teachings of the Buddha. This is not easy to obtain. One has not been able to practice while one is in the four apaya. You can practice only while in this human world. You have not been able to practice every time you get rebirth in the human world. The life that you have not been able to practice while in the human world is more frequent. Now the Dhamma audience can practice because of the paramita, the perfections, that you have accomplished in previous lives and still have the benefit of. You can practice now because of the opportunity of these paramita and kusala acts which are producing results now. This is why you have the opportunity to practice now. It is only because one is a human being, is still alive, can listen to the noble Dhamma as it is still prevailing and flourishing, and one is present in the Buddha Sasana, that one has the opportunity to practice. We should feel glad and blissful for having this opportunity. We must strive with our very best physical and mental ability while having this very rare opportunity. The Dhamma audience must now strive with their very best physical and mental ability in accordance with Buddha's exhortation. The Dhamma audience are practicing Satipatthana Vipassana now because they want to realize Nibbana, which is free from all suffering. While practicing thus, would they reach Nibbana? The benefit to be obtained is freedom from all dukkhas. The freedom also is not just temporary. It is for always a permanent freedom, the bliss of Nibbana. Thus, since one is practicing to realize this very noble bliss of Nibbana, now in the worldly endeavors, some may be accomplished without having to put forth the best effort in physical and mental energy. They may be possible by just putting forth mediocre effort. A person who wishes to obtain or to reach Nibbana, the complete total freedom from all suffering, must put forth one's best effort in physical and mental energy in the practice. This is the advice given by the Buddha for the Dhamma audience. The bliss of Nibbana that one is wishing for is not an ordinary or mediocre one. It is a bliss that is always there or permanent. It means that for a person who wishes to have the bliss, from which one will never be returned to the sufferings, one can obtain it only by practicing in a serious and ardent manner. Knowing this, then, the message is that one must strive really hard without regard for one's life or limb. The commentary teachers have often explained this point in accordance with the expositions of the Buddha. My discourse on the difficulty of getting an opportunity to practice vipassana is fairly complete. May you be able to follow, practice, and develop accordingly, and realize the noble Dhamma and the peace and the bliss of Nibbana, the cessation of all suffering that you have been wishing for and aspiring for, with ease of practice in the quickest, shortest manner. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.